Hello, my name is Julien Crétel, and in this video, you will learn about subdomain takeover, a vulnerability that should definitely be on your radar if you have any kind of presence on the web. A subdomain takeover typically arises when an organization neglects the curation of its DNS records. More specifically, when an organization has a dangling CNAME record on one of its subdomains, an attacker may well be able to take control of some or all of the content served by the organization's subdomain. And as we'll see, such an attack can seriously compromise the web security of the organization. Let's go over a typical scenario. Jubobs Limited is a fictional company who owns domain name jubobs.com. They're organizing some event this year, and to showcase it, they want to set up a short-lived website on one of their subdomains. GitHub Pages is a popular static site hosting solution. It allows custom domains and automatically provisions TLS certificates for them. This is the service that Jubobs Limited has chosen to host their event website. And finally, we have Mallory. Mallory is a malicious actor who is targeting Jubobs Limited. And as you no doubt expect, Mallory is adept at subdomain takeover. Here's what happens. Jubobs Limited creates a repository to deploy their site to GitHub Pages. The site becomes accessible at a default GitHub URL. To serve it from their own subdomain, event.jubobs.com, Jubobs Limited do two things. First, they create a CNAME record that points their subdomain to GitHub Pages. And second, they explicitly add their subdomain as the custom domain of their site on GitHub Pages. After that, the site becomes accessible from event.jubobs.com. So far, so good. The event takes place and everyone's happy. But that's where things start to go wrong. At some later stage, because the site has now outlived its purpose, the organization deletes the repository from GitHub. Doing so also releases event.jubobs.com as a custom domain on GitHub Pages. Crucially though, they forget to remove the CNAME record, and their subdomain still points to GitHub Pages. The subdomain is now vulnerable to takeover, which Mallory, the attacker, notices. After deploying her malicious site to GitHub Pages, she's able to claim the hostname for herself on the platform and associate it to her own site. From then on, she controls the content served by event.jubobs.com. Let's see Mallory in action as she takes control of the vulnerable subdomain. Mallory first performs a DNS lookup on event.jubobs.com. That CNAME record in the output indicates that the subdomain indeed points to GitHub Pages. She then deploys her own site to GitHub Pages, and because event.jubobs.com is available as a custom domain on the platform, she's able to claim it for herself. From then on, and for as long as the CNAME record remains, Mallory has complete control over the content served by the victim organization's subdomain. So what would a malicious actor want to actually do with a subdomain takeover? As we've seen in the demo, the attacker may opt for defacement, that is, serve content meant to harm the reputation of the victim organization. Another option is phishing. The attacker may try to elicit sensitive information from unsuspecting visitors. In fact, a subdomain takeover is a dream come true for phishers, because rather than running their phishing campaign from some lookalike domain name, they can readily leverage the reputation of the victim organization's own domain name. The attacker may also abuse the trust that other web assets place in the vulnerable subdomain, with a view to bypassing defenses against cross-site scripting, clickjacking, and cross-site request forgery. Finally, Consider a situation in which the attacker is able to log all requests received by the vulnerable subdomain. In that case, she will be able to read all the visitor's cookies that are scoped to some parent domain. This is really quite frightening, as no combination of security cookie attributes, such as secure and HTTP only, can really help in this situation. And of course, the theft of sensitive cookies may lead to session hijacking and account takeover. Bear in mind that we're only scratching the surface here. Right, let's talk about defense now. You should acknowledge that subdomain takeovers can happen, and therefore you should integrate them in your threat model and design your systems accordingly. You should audit and curate your DNS records on a regular basis. Don't let your DNS records gather dust or dangling records accumulate. Finally, you should select vendors wisely. More and more vendors protect their clients against subdomain takeover, but many still do not. Being patrons of the latter would represent a liability for your organization. Let's recap what you've learned in this video. You now know what a subdomain is and how they typically arise. You understand how an attacker may leverage a subdomain takeover to harm your organization. And you've also learned how to defend your organization against subdomain takeovers. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Until next time, stay safe.